In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up your 3D character as a third-person character so that you can control it in your scene or in your game as a third-person character. So we'll set it up the same way that it's set up in the with Ethan in the standard assets. Okay, so first of all, you needed to download the standard assets, which you could do that by going to the asset store. Just type in standard assets in here, and then you can download it. So I've already downloaded it, and I've already created a plane. Let's look at the third-person character, Ethan. That's already, there's a prefab for it. So that means it's all set up for us to use. So I'm just going to click and drag it, position it there. And as you can see, it has an animator, a rigid body, capsule collider, and a couple of scripts that will be coming back to that. All right, so let's go ahead and go into the play mode. So I'm going to click on Control P or Command P on the Mac. And we can see Ethan just idling back and forth. Now if I use my arrow keys, use the down arrow key, it moves towards the camera. And left arrow keys goes to the left and right. I can also use the WASD key, the W key, to move away from the camera, and the S key to move towards the camera, and then the A to the left and D to the right. And then also we can make it jump by hitting the spacebar and make it crouch. And we can move forward while it's crouching, move back, left, or right. So that's the idea in terms of what we want to have our characters do, those same movements, so same animations for now. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the scene. And so let's set it up. So I've downloaded a few models, and I went to the asset store. I have a low poly 3D character, one, a Marshall Assets free, and also Unity Chan. I had gone to the asset store and I typed in character models. And then, so I got a list of them right here, right? Some you have to pay for and so on. Went to pricing, scrolled all the way to 0, and then you got to make sure you hit that button. And as you can notice, here's Unity Chan. It's already faded because I've already downloaded it. And we'll go to the other ones that are faded out. Here's the martial arts one, and then also the low poly 3D character. All right, so those are the ones that I've already downloaded. Okay, so let's check them out. Let's make those characters into third-person characters so we can control it in our scene. What we need to do, obviously we need to go to our folder. Here is the low poly 3D character. Now, the way you'll notice they've set up in this particular folder and in some, like in the martial arts one and Unity Chan, it all varies by the developer. So you kind of have to look around for what we're wanting to set up. So going back to our low poly 3D character and looking at the folder, again, we're looking for the model that we can use and to use to make it into a 3D character. Okay, that we can control it that way. What we're looking for is a model that we can make it into a third-person controller type character. Okay, so let's see here. If we go to animation, we see that there are some animations on here, but no models necessarily. We go to demo scenes, materials, prefab. There are some prefab, so you may think, well, maybe we can use that. Let's start with character walking. It's very small right there. We'll resize it. Again, this is a prefab, so when I hit Control P, and notice that it's not idling or anything, we can control Ethan, but not that character. Okay? So that's not what we want. That means obviously we don't want any one of these other ones. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to click on animation. And what I want you to look for, now if you notice, if I select this character and click and drag it, resize it. In this case, when I play the anime, or when I play, go into play mode, it does what, what it says is the animation will do. And it has the model in it, but we can't control it, right? And if we look at it over here, while it's selected, we see that it has the animation. And if we scroll through it down over here, we notice that there isn't what we want is the animator controller already built into the model, or at least be within the model. And the way, by the way, the way the developer does it is doesn't do it necessarily in Unity. He either does it in whatever 3D modeling program that they have developed, so used to develop the character. So it could be in 3D Studio Max or Maya or something else in terms of creating that 3D character. Okay, so but it needs to have been created so that it has the animator controller, has the animations, so that they can work together, so that you can control it within Unity. All right, so again, we're looking for a model that has the animator controller. These, for instance, do not. As you can see, this is the icon for an animation. And as we scroll through, I already looked through this, so here's the one that I'm looking for, which is that model and has the animator controller already built into it. So I'm going to go ahead and click and drag this model there, make it a little bit bigger. Make it about the size of Ethan. We notice that when I selected it, we have the animator component built into it. So we have that it has the avatar, which is important. That the avatar again it should have been created in the 3D modeling program. Now we're going to choose our controller. I'm going to click here and choose a third-person animator controller. When I do that, and I click Command P or Control P, go into play mode, notice that it begins to idle just like Ethan. So that's good. So when we try to move, though, move it, jump or crouch, notice it doesn't do that. Okay. So we need other things, just like Ethan is set up. So we need to set up this character just like the way that Ethan is set up. And you'll notice that, as I said before, it has a rigid body, capsule collider, and a script. So let's load those script in on this character. All right, so I'm going to go back to my standard assets folder, third person character, and I'm looking for the scripts. So here are the scripts. The scripts that we're going to use is the third person user controller. So I'm going to make sure that the character is selected, and we have our inspector window showing up. We can click and drag it right onto the character, or we can click and drag it onto the inspector since the character is selected. I'm just going to click it and drag it to the inspector. When we do that, you'll notice the rigid body component and the capsule collider are loaded, as well as the third person character script. And that's because within the third person user controller script is commands to check to see if these are if they're not on the character, for it to be loaded onto the character. And one of the first things you notice, if you zoom out, is that the capsule collider is pretty big on the character. So we need to change that up a little bit. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go to my capsule collider, and then I'm going to change the radius, make it a little smaller, about the size. I'm going to zoom in so we can get a good look at it. Change the radius to 0.02, that's good. And then we want to change the height. First, let's change the Y position on it. And here's a key thing in terms of positioning it. We want to make sure that when we position the capsule collider, that it's right about, right about at the edge of when it comes in contact with the plane. I had to put the plane on there. If you'll notice when I select Ethan here, that notice where the capsule collider is about in terms of the placement on Ethan there. All right, so we want to do the same thing with this character, or else it's going to do some weird positioning stuff. All right, so I'm going to make sure that change the height. Also notice it's too tall on it. So let's see here. Change the height. So obviously when we change this height, we probably will need to go back and change the Y position. All right, need to lower that a little bit more. Change the height there. Play with these numbers a little bit. All right, that's about right. Okay. Then also what's important is that we need to change the ground check distance. If you'll notice when we click on Ethan, that it's at 0.3. 0.3. So we need to do the same here. 0.3. Okay, so let's see if this works. So we'll get into the play mode again. Notice it's idling, and then we use the up key. Characters move away from the camera towards it. Crouch, move to the left. Crouch, move, and so on. Okay, so as you can see, it's working. But again, the important part is that you change the capsule so that the bottom of the capsule is just above, it's right above the plane. Okay, and then also the ground check at 0.3. All right, so let's add the other characters. And again, we're exploring what within the folder, what we need to use in terms of the character. Here's the Poly 3D. Let's look at the martial arts character. Check out the model. So I notice right here that there is a model character, and it has the rig. And also make sure, by the way, when you click on the character itself that has the animation on there, make sure on the rig is set to humanoid. Okay, and if we open this up, we'll notice that this has the avatar. But here's the interesting part about this. If we click and drag this, this is actually what we're looking for, but it's just this character, right? And this happens to offer other models. So if I go to materials, not there, model prefabs. So here's the prefabs. And if you'll notice, if I select, let's say, player 2. So here's player 2, and when I click on player 2, it's a prefab, right? You'll notice it doesn't have the animator controller. So you think, okay, maybe we can use this, but in actuality, we can. So When I click on player 2, which is this model, it's the Ma character is a child of that, which has the animator that we're looking for. When I play it, notice just, again, sits there, it doesn't move or anything like that, right? But when I change the controller here to third-person controller, and I play it again, notice it's idling, but it's not moving around. I mean, it's just idling it, but we can't move it, just like before. So we're just going to do the same thing. The important thing to understand is that I had to look around for the character that had the animator on there. And in this case, it happened to be the prefab, but it wasn't the case with the low poly 3D character. When we drag that particular character, again, we went here and then we went to prefabs and we used the walking character. It is a prefab, but it just has the animation. It doesn't have the controller on there. Okay, so that one, as you can see, doesn't work. So we need to finish this one up. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to make sure, in this case, we don't want to add it to this character, the parent character. We want to add it to the child character that has the animator controller. All right, so I'm going to go down to my script, standard asset, the scripts folder for the third person, okay, third person character. Click and drag, make sure the mod character is selected, and just click and drag to the inspector. Now we have the rigid body and the capsule collider added to it, third person, and so on. So as we can see, the capsule collider is down at the bottom here. We need to move it up. Okay. Just get it about the size of the character. So basically, you're just going to play with these numbers. Just try to type them in. All right, so again, you're just going to play with the numbers to get it to just about above the bottom of the capsule, just above the plane. All right, so we've changed that, and then we're going to go to the ground check, change that to 0.3, and then go into the play mode, and you'll notice that we're able to control that character the same way. Okay. Let's do one more character that I downloaded. Let's zoom this out a little bit. And that's using Unity Chan. So again, when I go to the Unity Chan folder, we notice that we have the Unity Chan models and then an art folder, stage folder. This one comes with a lot of stuff, okay? And as you can see, it can vary. We've downloaded 3 different type of character models from the asset store, and they all vary in terms of how they're set up. So again, if we look at some of the prefabs, if I go to Unity Chan, I'll select the prefab, usually the usual place to go to first, and see what happens here. And you'll notice it already comes pre-set up. All this is for Unity Chan, in terms of having to do different poses and things like that, right? That's not what we're looking for. We want to be able to control it as Ethan. Okay, so I'm going to click on get rid of it from there. And we'll keep looking for what we need. Remember, we're looking for a character that has the animator. It's not going to be there. It's not going to be there either. Other textures. Not going to be in the stages. Maybe it would be in there, but it's not there. And obviously I've already looked through there, and we know that it's in the, well, you would think it would be in the models folder. Actually it is. It's in the models folder, I believe. Let's see here. There it is. So we can use this UnityChan model. I can use this because it has the UnityChan avatar, right? And so, by the way, if we click on a UnityChan avatar or any avatar, if you click it on from the folder itself and you click on Configure Avatar, it's going to try to open it up. Well, it wants you to save the scene before you go so that it can open it up. So that's fine to do. We're going to save the scene and then we'll come back to that scene. Okay. So notice right here, this is what I'm talking about in terms of the model being rigged and all set up in the 3D model program that someone may be doing to create it. Here's the skeletal system in terms of how this is set up. And you can see a little bit better how all that's set up. Anyway, all right, let's go back to our scene. And so there's UnityChan. Here's the animator that we're talking about. So again, we're going to select 3D person, third person controller. Let's see what happens here. It's moving around and so on. Okay, so we're just going to finish it up by adding the scripts. Oops. First person, we want to go to third person script. All right. So again, going to the capsule. Now it's set up. And oh, one more thing, we need to go to ground check. 0.3. Oops. Oh, jump power to 6, I think. The jump power on these also. Well, you can play with that jump power. All right, let's go back here and just make sure everything is set up correctly. You got the animator, third person. So notice, by the way, that each avatar is different, and that's fine. Okay, so let's try that. All right, notice they all move at the same time because they all have pretty much the same animation, same controller, right? And that's it. Again, the important thing to keep in mind is to look for the model that has the avatar. So you'll have to look through each folder to find that.